Bein HaMetzorim, a period of change. Asar B'Tammuz, that marks the beginning of the 3 weeks, the Drei Wochen, Bein HaMetzorim, the time of Avelus for the Churban, the period of time where there were many tzoros Rachmana litzlan for Klal Yisrael. And Chazal teach us that at Asar B'Tammuz, Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, one of the calamities that befell Klal Yisrael, the first thing that initiated, that brought about this period of change, period of Avelos, was the Shviras Haluchos. Moshe Rabbeinu descended from Har Sinai. Klal Yisrael had built the Egel Azov and were rejoicing, dancing over the Egel Azov, the Avodah Zarah, and Moshe Rabbeinu broke the Luchos. In Parshas Eikev, the Torah recounts the Shviras Haluchos, and immediately thereafter, the Misa of Aaron HaKohen. And Chazal teach us something very fascinating, that Kosha Misosa Shel Aaron K'Shviras Haluchos. It was Kosha Misosa Shel Aaron Lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It was so difficult, Kivyochol, the Misa of Aaron to the Rebbeinu Shalom, like the Shir of Luchos. And several questions immediately arise. What does it mean it's difficult? It's kosher for the Rebbeinu Shalom. Nothing is difficult for the Rebbeinu Shalom. What does that mean that this is difficult? The Misa of Aaron was difficult, the Shiras HaLuchos are difficult. And what's the connection between the two? What's the connection between Misas Aaron and the Shiras HaLuchos? They would seem to have nothing to do with each other. They seem to be totally unrelated events, yet the Torah specifically puts them and joins them together and to teach us this lesson. What could possibly be the connection between the Shviras HaLuchos, the breaking of the Luchos, as a result of Klal Yisrael building the Egel, the Misa of Aaron, which had to do with the Chet of Mei Meriva, happened many, many years apart, and would seem to be unrelated. A fascinating observation that several of the Meforshim make is that the Torah does not describe in detail the date of a Misa of a Tzaddik. We don't have the precise yahrzeit of the Misa of Tzaddikim in the Torah, with the exception of Aaron HaKohen. And there the Torah tells us exactly when Aaron died. He was Nifter and Rosh Chodesh Av. Aaron HaKohen was Nifter and Rosh Chodesh Av. The Torah makes a point of telling us this specifically. He was Nifter and Chodesh Av. And, as is pointed out, that when we lane this inyan, it always falls out either on Rosh Chodesh Av or on the Shabbos immediately prior to Rosh Chodesh Av. We learn about the Misa of Aaron either on Rosh Chodesh Av or on the Shabbos immediately prior to Rosh Chodesh Av. What's the connection of Misa of Aaron and the onset of this period of Avelos for the Churban Abayis? Another element that has to be understood and delved into is the nature of the Luchos. We're comparing the Misa of Aaron and the Shira Luchos. The Tana in Pirkei Avos, Perek Hey Mishnah Vav, says the Luchos, the first Luchos, were one of the things that were created in Bein HaShmoshes, Sheishes Yemei Breishis, Bein HaShmoshes, that's when it was created. It was created from the beginning of the Bria, right before Shabbos, in the twilight period, right before Shabbos. And why is that so significant? And why was it created at that point in time? And what is the Tana trying to teach us? Perhaps we can explain it in the following manner. The Maharal explains on Ovis. The Maharal explains, and he says that things that were created during the Sheshes Mea Breishis, they were created as part of Teva. On Shabbos, there's no creation on Shabbos. Shabbos is a day of Shabbos Vayinofash. It's a day of rest. There's no creation on Shabbos. Bein Hashmosha is that period, the twilight period between Yimei Chol, between Erev Shabbos and Shabbos, is not a day of Chol. It's not completely a day of Chol, so it's not subject to the regular Bria of Sheshes Mei Bereishis, but it's not entirely Shabbos either, so it's not a day of complete rest either. It's not a day that's Kula Ruchni either. It's not a day that there is no creation. What is created Erev Shabbos, Bein Hashmoshes, is something that has components of both. So there's a Bria, and there's a Bria of a Davar Gashmi, that's subject to Teva, but it's infused with Ruchni. So it may be a Bria of Teva, but its Hanhaga, its conduct, is L'mayla min Teva, is as a Davar Ruchni. And therefore we can understand the unique nature, the characteristic of the luchais, which were created out of stone, tablets out of stone, a davar gashmi, but it was created Erev Shabbos, Bein Hashmoshes, and its conduct was ruchni, and we know that the oisius of the luchais were benes, the mansapach benes, were the benes hayuimdim, they were standing there in a supernatural manner where there was not attached, the mem and the samach were not attached to the luchas, were suspended in midair. And the luchas, you could read it from both sides. It was a creation of a davar gashmi with stone, and a stone that could be shattered. But so long as the luchas were intact, it was a davar ruchni, it was benes hayu amdim. It was a constant nes. The way the letters were written and the way they were suspended, they were in a constant state of a miracle, of a nes. That was a bria that was created, Erev Shabbos Bein Hashmoshes. That was a luchas. Not subject to the normal laws and the conduct of Olam Haza of this world. Chazal tell us that had Moshe and Aaron, had it not been for the Chet Mei Meriva, had they been able to have entered Eretz Yisrael, had they have been able to come into Eretz Yisrael, there would never have been a Churban. And the Umas Ha'olam would never have been able to be shaylet on us. We would have a conduct that would be l'mayla miderech hateva. We would be in a permanent state of ruchni, a permanent ruchnistic state. Had Aaron been able to come into Eretz Yisrael, the Beis HaMikdash would have been built and have been then be there permanently. The Umas Ha'olam would never have been able to subjugate us. There never would have been a Churban. There would be a constant state of ruchni, of hashroas hashchina, of kavod shamayim. That would have been the state of Am Yisrael. Had the luchos never have been broken, we would have been in an elevated state. We would have been in a state that is not subject to entirely to the rules and the conduct of Olam Hazeh. The Meforshim tell us and the Sforim tell us that at Matan Torah, Maimed Har Sinai, with the giving of the Luchos, we were in a madrega of Ke'en Malachim. We were in a madrega of Ke'en Adam Arishan Kaidam Achet. We had a hashpa of Torah. We were able to learn Torah without Amal V'Yigiyah. We were in a matzav, an elevated state where the Torah was revealed to us without Yigiyah, Without Bezeyas Apecha, we were able to attain and comprehend the Sisrei HaTorah. We were on that elevated state of Torah, and we were been able to learn Torah and to comprehend Torah and to have a dveikus to the Rebbeinu Shalom and Ruchni, Divrei Ruchni, and Hashba and Hashemayim in a constant state, in a state without Amal v'Yegia. But the luchos were broken. And that conduct of the world was changed. And that hanhaga of the world was changed, and that hanhaga of Limud HaTorah was changed, and we can only attain the Torah by struggling, by Amal v'Yegia. And it's not so revealed, and it doesn't come to us so naturally. And it's a constant struggle and a melchama keneged the keichas of Olam Hazeh, the keichas Hagashmi, and it's a constant battle between the keichas Haruchni and the keichas Hagashmi. That was the change of the world after the Shviras HaLuchos. After the Luchos were broken, the Chet HaEgel, the world changed. Our world changed. Limud HaTorah changed, the ability to comprehend the depths of the Torah, the learning of the Torah, the depths of the Torah, the Amkos, the Tamei HaTorah, and the Mitzvahs, the Seidas, it all changed. It became Hester. It became concealed. We had to work hard, and we have to work hard to unearth the pearls, the jewels, the Sisrei Torah, the Tamei HaTorah. Aaron HaKohen was nifter, who was not allowed to come to Eretz Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu, they were not allowed to come to Eretz Yisrael. And our world changed. The Hashras HaShechina was not permanent. It was not a given. We had to be worthy of it, and if we weren't, and if we're not, Chas v'Shalom, Rachmana litzlan, there was a Chorban. And there's a Hester Panim. And we have to seek and find the Rabbeinu Shalom in our midst. So that is what Chazal refer to when they say kasha. This is difficult. Kivyachol. Nothing's difficult for the Rabbeinu Shalom, but Kivyachol, this is difficult because this is a change in the Hanhaga of the world. It's a change in the Hanhaga. The Rabbeinu Shalom set up the world in a certain manner, and the desired manner, the way it was supposed to be, lechatchila, and there was a change. It's kasha. Like we find an expression, kasha kekriyas yamsuf. Kriyas yamsuf had to change the laws of nature, had to change the order of the world to facilitate this great nace. That's what Chazal referred to as kasha, L'Rabbeinu Shalom. It's a change. You have to change the conduct. It's kasha, misasa shel Aaron. When our state, the matzav of Gilui Shechina, the Shechina is revealed, that the Shechina and the Olam HaRuchni is all in front of us in a revealed manner, that was changed. There's Hester Ponim. We have to build a Mikdash. We have to build a base of Mikdash and be worthy of it. And if not, Chas v'Shalom, it's taken away from us. The Shviras HaLuchos, the revelation of the Torah in front of us, the depths of the Torah, the breadth of the Torah, the Sisrei Torah and Tamei Torah, we have to struggle to unearth it. And if we don't, it will not be revealed to us. That's a change. And that occurred on Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, Shvasar B'Tammuz. That occurred on Rosh Chodesh Av. That's this period of time where there is a Hester Ponim, where there is a change, when we struggle, when we have to struggle to come close to the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's this period of time. But we should all know and be perfectly cognizant of the fact that not only are the second Luchos in the Aron HaKodesh, but also the Shivrei Luchos. The Shivrei Luchos are also Munachim Ba'aron. What's in the Aron HaKodesh? The second Luchos, the ones that Moshe Rabbeinu wrote, the ones that are part of the Hanhaga, part and parcel of the conduct of the world that we live in right now. But there's also the Shivrei Luchos. They're there, they're broken, but they're also in the Aron. And with struggle, with Omal and Yagia, with a wholehearted desire, we can connect in some manner. We can connect partially, to some degree, to that world of Hashros Shechina, to that world when we were like Malachim, where the entire world, the Olam Hazeh, is subjugated to the Olam Haruchni, to Torah and Klal Yisrael, just as it was at the time of Ma'amad Har Sinai, just as it was meant to be, had Moshe and Aaron been allowed to come to Eretz Yisrael, just as it was in Gan Eden for Adam Arishon Kodim Hachet. To some degree, we can connect to that. And the Olam Hagashmi, the Olam Hazeh, the Olam Hagashmi will be subjugated to the Olam Haruchni. There's a famous word from the Brisker Rov Zatzal. He said, everything in the world is for the Torah. And all the new innovations in the world are for the Torah. And when we see something new that's developed, and when we see some new innovation, it's also for the Torah. In his time, the great new innovation was the rail line. And he said they just built the new railway, the new line that ran from St. Petersburg to Berlin. Incredible. You'd be able to travel on a line from St. Petersburg to Berlin. And he said, you know why? So that the Talmidei Chachamim can travel to Volozhin and learn Torah. And they developed a line from Bialystok to the Far East. He says, you know why? So that the Bachrim who were fleeing during the war were able to reach Shanghai to safety, to be able to learn Torah. Everything has the potential to be for an Olam Haruchni, everything is for the Torah. We don't see it all, and we're not worthy to transform it all in our times, but with the Omal and the Gia and the Rotzon and the Tefillas, we can